We've actually gone down a kit rabbit hole, so much so that John Giles has joined us in studio as well, and we were talking about the actual luxury of being able to buy kits is something that would have bypassed you as a kid, because that you had to wash your own. Even when you were a player, it had to be washed by the club.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to change it. But the one I was going to ask you about when we were talking about traditional colours outside and the whole PSG Real Madrid thing last night, I wanted to ask you about Leeds, but it was a couple of years before you joined, but you would have been, I guess, cognizant of it at the time, that Leeds used to wear, was it blue and yellow or yellow and blue, whatever combination of it.
Blue and yellow,
Same colours as, say, the Rugby League team from Leeds wear.
Yeah.
But Don Revie decided to change it to all white.
Yeah.
Which, like, if you think about it, if you can imagine a Jurgen Klopp or a Pep Guardiola going into a club now and saying, right, whatever about that blue and white jersey, don't want it anymore. Yeah. We're going to be, like you saw what happened with Cardiff when they changed from blue to red.
Oh, there was murders, yeah. I think what happened at Leeds at the time, you see, that you're talking about probably 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
And actually, it's only now, actually in October, that I'm going back to Leeds, or up to Leeds, it's the centenary year.
Okay.
So it's only 100 years, Leeds, in relation to some of the other clubs. So if you're talking about, this was in the 50s.
That's fairly youthful, yeah.
This was in the 50s, Richie, that he changed it when he went, certainly early 60s, because Leeds didn't have a tradition, a football tradition, not really. They had an odd time in the first division, but mostly in the second division. And Leeds was a big rugby town.
Yeah.
Still is a big rugby town. Yeah. So when Don took over, it wasn't the Leeds United getting 40, 50,000 people. Like my first match in Leeds was in 1963. I think it was about 14,000, 15,000 at the match.
Yeah.
So there was no history to it. So, so when he went in, he said, I'm going to make changes here. And because Real Madrid, you see, they would have been heroes of most football people. Real Madrid, as we know, they won the
first few European Cups,
the first 5 years. Yeah. So they dominated with Di Stefano and Puskas and all these great players, and they were all in white. So Don thought, well, okay, I don't think he liked the Leeds gear. It was a bit drab, to be quite honest. So he thought, well, there's big changes here. This is what I'm going to change into. And then he produced a team. It was easier to get rid of the jerseys.
That's the thing.
They produced a team, Richie. But that's what he had in his mind to do.
I'll tell you what, John, we don't have enough managers these days with a bit of sartorial nous about them that they can go into a club and go, that's not right, I'm changing it.
Well, what dictates it now, Richie, is the advertising.
Yeah.
Like, meaning when I was at Manchester United, the gear, they used to have to buy the gear. In other words, there was nothing on no advertising.
It was a plain red T-shirt, essentially, yeah.
Right, so they get a deal from whoever was the leading suppliers of the gear at that time. But that'd be washed for the next week. If you go back and see it the old time, we weren't presenting the jerseys to the kids and all that.
You had bloody well hold on to it.
Just hold on to it, because they'd be washing them for next week. So they weren't giving jerseys away. In those days, they were quite expensive,
Yeah. We'll move on to the present day.
Yeah.
I want to start off with a topsy-turvy week for Manchester City. Last week, I think a lot of people would have been surprised by their 3-2 defeat at Norwich City. A lot of people might necessarily have been surprised with the way that Norwich played on the day, but we'll get to City. What did you make of that defeat? And I guess, are there any larger ramifications for it?
Probably not. It shouldn't happen ever, Richie. But I think what looking at it, they were playing against the Norwich team who had just come up, as we know, and I think they about 4 or 5 of their top players missing. And it looked to me a typical team who were very complacent going on the pitch. We only have to turn up to win 3 or 4-0. And that doesn't happen, because you have to be up for every match. Sometimes it has to be contrived. Like if you were playing the cup final, you're going to be nervous anyway, and you're up for it. You're up for it, or a big match, you're up for that match, you get nervous in there. Now, if you're playing against a team like Norwich, who just come up missing a lot of players, this is the way I read it anyway, you're not up in the same way. In other words, you have to contrive it to say, I'm going to try as hard against these guys today as I would against Manchester United.
Which is what struck me as unusual about that, because City, for the last 2 years in particular, are a side who are like hares out of the traps at a greyhound track. Like they start really fast, they put teams away early and almost have their feet up for the last 70 odd minutes of the game, because they know they have it won. Was it just a case that they didn't happen to play that way, or was it the Norwich didn't afford them that opportunity to do that?
I'd say it was more City not up for it than Norwich doing what they did. Now, to be fair, there would be an element of that. I think the man is very good at Norwich. If you go back to the start of the season, they went to Liverpool and they had a go at Liverpool. They actually had a couple of chances. They were 4 down at half-time and he didn't change it. In fact, it finished 4-0 and they still had a couple of chances. So he had the courage to believe, whether it's Liverpool or anything else, this is what we're going to do. So if you have a manager doing that with the first team, that goes through the club. So the lads coming in, there's no doubt he would have said to them, I don't want us to sit back. We're going to be beaten 6-0, we're going to be beaten 6-0. This is what we do, and this is what I continue to do. Now, as it happened, they caught City fast asleep, in my opinion, because even in the first 10 minutes, what City are really brilliant at, despite the players they have of skill, they're great workers. They close the opposition down. They're absolutely brilliant at it. Best in the Premiership, in my opinion. So I think on that day, wherever it was, they weren't doing that. Right from the first 5 minutes, I was watching it with my grandson. I said, this is not right. They weren't doing that. Now, it can happen. You know, it can happen because it's very unlikely. I'm surprised at them doing it because I think Guardiola would be, no, don't care who we're playing against, this is what we're going to. They didn't do it on the day. So obviously there was a complacency about it. In other words, we'll win easily in our own time. It can happen. Yeah. It can happen to the best of teams. And then you got to kick up the backside. And because it's difficult in many ways, Richie. You're playing against a team like Norwich. City are a terrific team. It can happen. But because I know in playing in those similar matches in my time, you had to make yourself get going. I have to get going for this match because it's not there naturally. Like if you're playing Manchester United, say I was at Leeds playing Manchester United top team, you're nervous, you're up for it, you know, you got Georgie Best and you got Bobby Charlton, you really have to do your stuff, right? And when you're a pro, what you have to do is playing against the worst team in the league, have the same attitude. City didn't on the day, which is very unlike them, but that's what they did, in my opinion. And Norwich, to be fair to them, weren't scared of them. They took advantage of it and played on the day, and they played really well.
There was a point made at some stage last year, and I think it was actually in relation to Brighton, because Brighton had obviously, I think last year was their second year in the Premier League. They'd established themselves, but under Chris Hughton or under whoever happened to be in charge at the time, like the play was, you know, pretty stagnant. They were a team that likes to sit in, don't give anything away first, that old doctor's thing of first do no harm. But it's nice to see, and it's a change to see a side like Norwich who come up and are still brave. Like they're abiding by the methods that got them to where they are now. They've decided that even though they're playing quote unquote better opposition, they're not going to change who they are.
No, but that's the manager. That's down to the manager, Rich. You know, you don't get two managers the same. You know, what Chris Hughton would say to you, look, I kept him up for 3 years. Was it 3 years?
3, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and did well. I thought he was very harshly treated because that's what they have. You know, that's what they do. Now, like again, we'll have to wait and see what Norwich do by the end of the season. Maybe the tactics, not the tactics, but his approach to the game might lead them in relegation. It might, you know, but he believes in what he's doing, and so far it's been good. But it's early days in the season. Like we could get 2 matches from the end of the season and they're down. We could be talking then saying, well, he had a go, but it wasn't quite right for what was needed.
Yeah, but there's no evidence to suggest either, though, that if he was to put a team out that puts 10 men behind the ball, that they wouldn't end up getting beaten anyway and wouldn't end up being in relegation. So they might as well go out and play in the same manner.
Well, yeah, well, it only time will tell. You know, like what he did last week, what he did against Liverpool, what he's done so far is very, very good.
It's a promising start. Yeah.
And he wouldn't have done what he did against City if he didn't have the right attitude himself to encourage the teams to play. But we'll have to wait and see if that's going to be right, or Chris Hughton. I mean, Chris did keep them up for 3 seasons.
True.
Richie, you know. Now, if this lad keeps them up for 3 seasons the way he wants to do it, brilliant.
He'd be lauded for that, but probably wouldn't still be there if he was keeping them up playing that style of football for 3 seasons.
Well, the football's a crazy game. I mean, Chris Hughton kept them up for 3 seasons and he got sacked.
At the Tin Tack,
anyway, so... But it was good to see. I think he's done a very good job with Norwich so far, and what they did last week was excellent, and they wouldn't have done it without the manager's good guidance and approach to the game.
Part of that City performance was put down to their, I don't want to say makeshift, considering the amount of money that was shelled out for both of them, but it was a makeshift centre-half partnership of Nicholas Otamendi and John Stones. John Stones has since picked up an injury himself, so much like Aymeric Laporte, he's going to be sitting on the sidelines. Laporte's out until the new year. Stones is out for the next 4 to 5 weeks. This brought about this makeshift centre-half partnership yet again last night, where Fernandinho dropped back from midfield into the centre-back position alongside Otamendi. it seems to work when Fernandinho's back there. It's not the first time he's done it, and I don't think he's disgraced himself at any point.
I think it's his best position. I think it's a blessing in disguise, to be quite honest.
From a permanent basis for Fernandinho, yeah, okay.
Yeah, like people keep saying he's 34. He is 34, but he's a fit guy. See, he was the holding midfield player, as we know, Richie. And I thought, yeah, he did that well. I didn't think he never did much on the ball, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
But he was a very, very good defender. And usually with lads who are good defenders in midfield, the further you step back in football, usually, Richie, the easier it is. Because you're facing everything. You can see everything in front of you. I think he reads the game well from the midfield position. I think he'll read it even better. I think he could turn out to be the best defender they have in the club at this particular time.
Yeah. Does it, like, from the point of view of him having to be there and having to adjust from being a midfield player to playing defence, it's all well and good if it does work out, but is there also the suggestion that City, once they saw Vincent Kompany retiring, or moving on to Anderlecht, we should say, in the summer, because he's still playing, should they have invested in a centre-half?
Oh yeah, they should have gone for Maguire. Maguire was made for them, there's no doubt of that. But I think there's complications there, Richie, with what's the thing they call
financial fair play, is
yes,
it? Yeah.
Definitely. I think that there was investigations in what was going on, and I think had they gone for Maguire, which would have been a record fee,
78 million
for a defender. Now, this looks odd, in the position that they're in. Like Guardiola knows the game. Maguire was was exactly what they needed in that particular position. Now he knows that he's not a fool that Maguire would be really good. I think there was something in that fair play situation that they couldn't be seen to go for him. They wouldn't be short of the money, Richie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They wouldn't be short of the money. He's the outstanding defender, definitely outstanding. Company's leaving. It only makes sense that Guardiola's right, we've got to go for him. I think there was some restriction on him from the fair play people, that they couldn't go for, or wasn't right for them to go for.
Their next run of fixtures until the international break is somewhat benign, with all due respect to the likes of Watford and the likes of Everton and Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League. But it is a case where they're going to have to ride this Laporte storm out until, January, February. Do you expect them, or should they pursue somebody else in January once that transfer window reopens?
I think they should have pursued somebody in the summer. Maguire was there for the take, and they couldn't pay it. I don't believe that, Richie, that they couldn't pay the 80 grand.
80
no, the 80 sorry, the 80 mil. No, I don't believe that. I think there was something definitely holding them back from the fair play people, that they couldn't do it, or they couldn't be seen to be doing it.
Come here, we'll talk about City's performance against Shakhtar in a minute, because I know you were watching that last night as well. We'll get to that after the break, as well as Liverpool's performance in Naples too. But our football coverage is with thanks to Paddy Power. For more information on responsible gambling, see dunlewy.net for more from John after this. And we'll also update you on the night's Europa League ties, which are wrapping up around now. The 5:55 starts are anyway, and Arsenal certainly in control now. 2 goals in a couple of minutes. Aubameyang and Sakho with those goals for them. So we'll update you on everything after these.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power, the greatest football partnership since Juff and Heskey. Continuing this week, the Hard Shoulder and Emirates, sending you to the Rugby World Cup 2019 final. Fly Emirates, fly better. This week on News Talk.
In fairness to the government, it introduced the home renovation incentive, 13.5% cash back when you renovated your home. Now that's gone out the window. In fairness to Ferco, there's now the Ferco Home Renovation Grant, a cheque back for the same amount.
Say that again?
With Ferco Windows and Doors, you get a cheque back into your hand direct from Ferco. Yes, a few small terms and conditions apply, but you also get a beautiful, warm, secure home.
Well, fair dues to Ferco.
For more details, see ferco.ie.
Here we are, folks, live at the Sky half-price sale. It's the event of the season, Martin.
This is the one we've all been waiting for.
Choose from Sky TV, Sports or Sky Broadband, all half-price for 6 months. What a result.
And that's not all. For the first time, you can get every single live Premier League game with Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sport.
Now that's unbeatable.
So don't miss out on the event of the season. Search Sky half price. Offer ends 26th of September. Available in selected fibre areas. Setup fees, T's and C's apply.
There's not a lot you can get for €25. You could go to the cinema, get a takeaway, Or get a gorgeous new sofa, dining set or beautiful new bed with Harvey Norman's 3 years interest-free finance options. That's right, from as little as €25 a month, you could sleep soundly on your new mattress, dine at your beautiful new table, or relax on your gorgeous new sofa. Interest-free finance with Harvey Norman. What would you get?
Standard fees, terms and conditions apply, subject to assessment. Finance provided by Creation Consumer Finance Limited. For full terms and conditions, visit harveynorman.ie/finance.
EirGrid manages and develops the national electricity grid. You could say it's the heartbeat of Ireland, keeping our country's energy flowing from head to toe across the land, so that everyone has power when and where they need it. Because no matter who your electricity supplier is, it's the power of the grid that keeps our farms and businesses running and our homes warm and bright. Now and into the future, without missing a beat. EirGrid, the current, the future.
Start your story with unmissable savings this week at Woodie's. Savings like Triton T90 SR electric shower, now €229. All Dulux interior coloured emulsion, 25% off. And all flat pack furniture and bar stools, now half price. Woodie's, we're all homemakers. T's and C's and exclusions apply.
The 2019 Boyle Sports World Grand Prix Darts is back at the City West Convention Centre, Dublin from the 6th to the 12th of October. See 32 of the biggest darting stars on the planet, including world number 1 Michael van Gerwen, former Grand Prix champion Darrell Gurney, plus fan favourite Peter Wright. Get your tickets now at ticketmaster.ie and search darts. The 2019 Boyle Sports World Grand Prix Darts at City West. Game on.
Be confident in the next car you buy. At Dundeel, you can find cars from over 1,000 trusted dealerships nationwide. Now you can search for cars with warranties and monthly finance options to meet your budget. Dundeel, Ireland's largest car showroom in the palm of your hand.
The Fairco Windows and Doors Home Renovation Grant. A cheque back into your hand. See fairco.ie. T's and C's apply.
Football on Off the Ball.
Yeah, John Giles joins us in studio on this Thursday night. The early kickoffs in the Europa League wrapping up. Arsenal in control against 10-man Eintracht Frankfurt, leading by 3-0. The two most recent coming from Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and before that Bukayo Saka, just 18 years young, scoring for Arsenal tonight. Meanwhile, Celtic and Rennes are 1-1 into stoppage time over in France. Celtic reduced to 10 men. As Jamie Forrest has gotten the goal for them tonight, and Bain Yang with the goal for Rennes. Speaking of your Manchester City getting back on form, beating Shakhtar Donetsk, getting back on the horse, winning 3-0. Everything's rosy in the garden again suddenly for them.
Well, that's what you have to do, yeah. Richie, you know, like it was a terrible performance at the weekend. The big thing when that happens is it going to get worse? In other words, are we on a real slump? The only way to do it is to get back on the horse again and get up there and do it, which they did last night, and they won comfortably in the end.
On Liverpool, because obviously they lost. Naples is a tricky place for them to go, it seems. They lost there last year. They lost there on Tuesday night too, a 2-0 defeat for them. An unusually open game.
Yeah.
And it seemed like Liverpool were stretched in a way that I hadn't seen in a long, long time. They conceded not only the 2 goals, but a lot of chances during the course of that game.
Well, the goalkeeper made a fantastic save. Remember?
Adrian, yeah, he made a great double save. Yeah.
Was it?
Dries Mertens, yeah.
How he got, but I'd enjoyed the game. It was very, very open. Liverpool played at times very, very well. But obviously they conceded the 2 goals that you wouldn't expect Liverpool to concede. Robertson was cut out, gave the penalty away.
Was it a penalty for you?
I'd say it was. I mean, players make the most of it. They're brilliant at it now. But there was contact. Yeah, I'd say so, especially nowadays. And then Van Dijk, very unusually for him, making a blunder.
Yeah, it seemed like completely out of character, because I think on Tuesday night I was presenting. Damien Delaney was in studio, the former Ireland defender, and we were praising Van Dijk before the game to the hilt, and then he goes and makes a hames of that chance there. Both Damien and Kenny then last night making a point of Van Dijk's habit of gesticulating. Like he's one of these players who points and shouts, and that can come across well when everything's going your way and you know the ship's on an even keel, but I don't know, it's something didn't sit well with either of them last night when they were talking.
I don't like it.
Okay.
I think he's a terrific player, probably the best defender in the world, but I find him very, very arrogant. And even last night, he wasn't accepting the responsibility. Like I see him playing in matches and like there's nothing on, and he's doing his hands, and you know, like where are all these guys? It was his fault. The goal was his fault last night, but he was still pointing at somebody. He's a terrific player. But I don't like that in a player, because I think, in my opinion, you should never do anything on the pitch, Richie, that is degrading your own players or having a go at them. You can say it next to them. You know, if you're on the pitch and you're not agreeing, you can say, the crowd don't know about it.
Yeah.
But when you're doing that, then it's...
The optics of it are quite poor.
Yeah. I don't like it. I think he's a terrific player. Probably he's one of the best defenders in the world in that. But and all great players have an arrogance about them. All right, and he has that, which that's confidence in that. But definitely, anytime I see him make a mistake, I haven't seen him hold his hands up yet. It's been somebody else. But anyway, that's Liverpool. I thought Liverpool played quite well.
Well, I was just going to ask you, is there cause for concern there, given the fact that...
No, definitely not. I mean, Robertson doesn't make many mistakes. Van Dijk doesn't make many mistakes. And they had their chances as well. It was a very open game, Richie, you know. And it went, well, it was only the last 8 minutes the goals were scored. So I don't think there was anything for Liverpool to worry about. Like, it was just one of those nights. They could have had their chances. Napoli played really well.
Did they show essentially a blueprint of how best to go about beating that Liverpool side, though?
Well, you can come up with all sorts of plans, Richie, playing whether it be Manchester City or Liverpool, and you don't expect Robertson, who's been brilliant for them, to make a mistake in the game. Van Dijk, who's been even better, to make a mistake in the game. They're few and far between, but that's football. You know, it's not going to be perfect all the time. But if you look at the other end, they still posed a threat all the time. You know, when the players got it, they opened Napoli up. So it could have been anything. So I don't think there's anything to worry about, particularly in this competition, because they're odds on to beat Napoli at home and to go. Look, last year they lost there. Last year they lost other places last year and went on to win it. So I don't think from Liverpool playing absolutely brilliantly this season that's a mishap. But I wouldn't think there was anything long term about it.
Yeah, you look at the other sides in the group with Salzburg, as well as they performed the other night, and Genk. It's a group that Liverpool should probably get through with something to spare. Tottenham again, another side who started badly last year in the Champions League, ended up in the final, of course, but started again pretty well on Tuesday evening. They were 2-0 up away to Olympiacos and managed to make a hames of that too.
Yeah, I don't think it's right there, Richie. I think I found in football, it's hard enough to win trophies when everything is right. It's hard work. Now, you get the situation at Spurs. Eriksen, for example, is he coming? Is he going? Who's in? Who's out? Nobody knows. So, you see, you talk about team spirit. It's very hard to define team spirit, and it's hard to get, and it's very easy to lose. But if you get there's a couple of players out of contract at Spurs, that can't be right. You know, to do it properly, Eriksen should be happy doing what he's doing. All the players should be settled in. They got their things. They should be, nowadays, like, what would Eriksen be talking to the rest of the lads about? Or what are the rest of the lads thinking? Is he going to try today? It's obvious he wants to go. You know, you got other players in the team, their contracts are running out. This shouldn't happen. It just shouldn't happen. And the team morale suffers in that. It's very hard to define it. You get a group of lads together and everything is going well, and then something happens, one player wants to leave, and it destroys it. And Eriksen is a very important player for them. He's been left out of the team. And then you get Pochettino himself. I mean, Pochettino has made some amazing statements since the start of the season. He said, one of the statements was, if we'd won the Champions League, I might well have finished. You know, I might have finished with...
That doesn't exactly instill the greatest of hope that the head is still in the job.
No. What I found in football, that when you're with a man, I was with Leeds for 12 years and we had the same manager for 11 years. You have to believe that you're there forever. You know, you have to believe that. Well, as it happens with Leeds, we were together for a long time. But in the dressing room, like, there was no freedom of contract then, so you could build a team and all the various things. But once, say, in my time playing, Alan Clark didn't sign his contract and Mick Jones didn't sign his contract. Where's the togetherness in that? Where's the belief that we're all going to be together? You got to believe the manager's going to be there forever. Now, if Pochettino is making statements that, well, I might have left or I might have done this, I might have done that, you're a player. I think, well, he could be gone any time. The way he's talking, he could be Real Madrid and Manchester United. What are we going to do? What's the club going to do? How do we build a team spirit if the manager's gone? Joe Bloggs hasn't signed his contract. Somebody else has. He could be gone next year.
It is strange from a Spurs point of view. On one area of specifics for them is that where they were praised a couple of years ago, I think 2 seasons ago in particular, was where their full-back play. I think it was when Kyle Walker was still there. They had Trippier, so basically the two of them could alternate on the right. On the left-hand side, you had Ben Davies and Danny Rose. Trippier's gone. They didn't replace him. Kyle Walker's obviously gone since. They had Davinson Sanchez filling in at right back the other night. They'd Ben Davies on the left. It seems an area in it you can now get at Spurs, whereas before they were ridiculously strong.
Yeah, but then you have to ask the question, Richie, if they're going to be a top club, why are they selling these players? You know, like, because they need to build this is the chairman's thing, and he's got his job to do. They're building a new stadium. There's a lot of money going out. Now, what we know at the moment, and it's come from Arsenal at the time and Spurs, you can't build a new stadium and a new team at the same time. Right? Now they have the stadium. Where's the players coming into it? Because the players have been on low money in relation to other teams. Walker's gone. Trippier's gone. Who are they going to replace him with? We don't know. It doesn't seem to be anybody as good. Ericsson wants to go, obviously, because he wants more money. Harry Kane was on low money, and Dele Alli was on low money up to recently. Maybe the other players, they got a rise. The other players are saying, well, he got a rise. Why am I not getting a rise? You know, Alderweireld, this is the centre-back.
Alderweireld, yeah.
His contract is running now. Ericsson would be on his way, if he could be on his way. So how is Ericsson in that position where everybody knows, himself included, that he wants to go, can give Spurs the 100% that they need from any player and colleagues around them?
Does a manager have a very firm role to play in that instance where he has to either take Ericsson aside and let it be known you are here until January at least, or you have to believe that you're here forever? Bloody well get on with it.
Well, you can say that,
and it mightn't work.
But if Ericsson, we know from the outside, Ericsson wanted to go.
Yeah,
we know that. Now the reason he didn't go because nobody came in to get him. But if Ericsson had the chance to go tomorrow, he'd go. Right. So how can Pochettino say to him, right now, I want you to settle down here? And it doesn't happen. If he was doing that, there'd be no problem. And what about the other players around him in the dressing room? See, this is the thing about the atmosphere in the dressing room among a group of players. I mean, they'd be pally with Ericsson. But they know he wants to go. So their attitude would be, well, if he wants to go, is he going to play for us the way he should be playing for us? Or does he really want to go? So, like, that's what I say, team spirit. How do you define team spirit? Team spirit for me was with Leeds for a long time. We were all happy there. First of all, we couldn't go, even if we wanted to go. But we didn't want to go.
Yeah,
the manager was doing his best for us. The team was winning matches. And we were up for every match. We were going to be here forever. That's what was my feeling. I didn't want to go anywhere. I couldn't go anywhere else. Didn't want to go anywhere else. We were a good team. We were a good group. We got on well. We're winning. We were doing well. The club was good. That's team morale. That's team spirit. Now you go out and you show that on the pitch. But if you're not happy, right? If I fell out with Don Revy or a couple of the lads and I wasn't happy, am I going to go out on the pitch and do really what I should be doing?
It's going to be an ongoing problem for Tottenham to deal with throughout the course of the season.
I think it's difficult with Pochettino, but Pochettino didn't help matters with the statements he made, Richie, himself, because he was going to leave if they won. He was going to have a rest. There was talk at that time that the Real Madrid job was available, the Manchester United job was available, and I think he was definitely making statements encouraging for that particular situation. Now, the players know that as well. Then that suddenly stops. So now we're back to normal again. You don't get back to normal in that situation.
John, time's against us. Could stay here and chat with you all night, but we do have to get on with our Heineken Roadshow from Limerick last night. Craig Chalmers, Clive Woodward, Brian O'Driscoll and more, and we'll keep tabs on everything going on in the Europa League as well. But for now, until next week, John, thanks very much.
Thanks, Richie.
Join the conversation. Text us on 53106. Texts cost 30 cents.
Start your story with unmissable savings this week at Woodies. Savings like Triton T90 SR electric shower, now €229. All Dulux interior coloured emulsion, 25% off. And all flat pack furniture and bar stools.